I'll be back.
Right.
I'll be back. Okay, I'm sharing. I'm finding you.
There we go.
There you are.
Got it.
Is that
Okay.
you?
Yep.
Yay!
We're all together now. All righty. Well, I think we're live, and we have been here for a little while, so we're just kind of getting welcome everyone over here to Thursday. This is Magic and Martini Thursday night, and my guest over here then from Minnesota. I'm sorry, from Los Angeles. There's Matt Alexander. Hey, Matt.
Hi. How are you?
Fantastic. Matt is one of our friends of the Magic Word, who is not only a friend because he's a financial supporter, but he's also a listener like many of you then as well. So thank you very much, Matt, for hanging in there and representing. Appreciate that.
My pleasure.
And then from north of the border, up in Calgary, then we've got Gwyn Auger, the magician's assistant. Hey there, Gwyn.
Hi.
And glad to have you over here. And so is the weather cool outside in Canada right now? I know it's been raining a little bit, but cool.
Right now, it's cooling off in Calgary. It was really sunny today. Yesterday, I got sunburnt a little bit on my shoulders, and then now it's cooling off again. So.
Well, you're fair skinned, so I can understand that. And then coming in from Los Angeles also, we have another person out in LA. Please welcome Jessica Jane Peterson. Hey, JJ, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy
here we
to have
are.
you in the living room. This is awesome.
It's Thursday over here, so thank you guys. Cheers to everyone who is joining us over there on Facebook then as well. And
it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
That's right. And I must also introduce then my butler, Jasper, who is the one who, he's the one who brings me my decks of cards and my martini and everything, and everything helps to replenish things. So I talk to Jasper sometimes, and depending upon how many of these, sometimes he talks back. But hey, listen, thank you guys very much. This is going to be kind of fun. I just wanted to have a few people on to chat, but as people will join us, if they want to say, have something, questions or something as we're going along, that we'll get to answering those questions then as well. But again, welcome. Thank you guys very much for being here. A lot of stuff is going on right now, and we're doing this as a Zoom meeting. And I imagine you guys have been in a lot of Zoom conferences over the last couple of months. JJ, you've been doing lectures and things, I guess, haven't you? Or have you?
I've been doing some stuff, and I'm over here with David Mencken. He's been volunteering for kids' hospitals and stuff to do magic, so we'll pop in and do some appearances. He's so sweet. He did an outreach thing where he was doing magic for free for families that had no income, or people that were quarantined alone, or people in hospitals that couldn't see their families. So it was really sweet. Awesome. Yeah, dropping into magic meetings and surprising people and saying hi. So that's been cool.
That's pretty cool. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, by the way, that today, Thursday, June the 4th, happens to be National Cheese Day. National Cheese Day. So anyhow, in honor of that.
What?
So I've got some charcuterie here that I have prepared for everybody. Yeah, thanks, Gwen. You can just kind of lean in over there. So, try some. I got some Irish cheddar, and I've got some Gruyere and some cave-aged Emmentaler, and anyhow.
And way to reach through the computer.
I know, right? We have to sit here and watch you eat cheese now? Are you kidding me?
This is why Zoom meetings are not good.
I told you, bring your own, or I'll bring mine, and you can help me eat. So, anyhow, yeah, this is part of Magic and Martini Thursday. Is not only have a drink, but you have to have something, else for your system. So, anyhow, you said that David's kind of been dropping in and out. I know, Gwen, you've been, as Lance Burton's assistant. You have been working with him also. I know he's been doing some pretty cool stuff. I've been dropping in and out of his watch parties that he's had.
He's had a bunch of watch parties. I don't know if there's going to be more. I'm hoping. I think if the people want it, there should be some more.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe he's watching and he can answer that question for us, but I don't know that answer. But he's also come to, I've been bringing or asking him to join some of the different Canadian club meetings. So he's also popped into the Calgary Club Zoom meeting. He's popped into the Edmonton Club Zoom meeting. He popped into the Vancouver Club. So it's been really fun because we can just kind of say, hey, what are you doing? When's your club meeting? And then I usually try not to tell any of the members because I don't want them to just come to the meeting.
Just waiting for him to show up. That happened in the
Right.
Dallas.
And if something happened, maybe he can't make it,
Sure. Well, that happened in the Dallas club meeting here not so long ago.
And at one, we actually had Family West and Mac King and Lance Burton.
Oh,
And it was awesome.
Nice.
It's so good.
that is awesome.
Yeah.
And
That's
and so have you been the one helping to facilitate those drop-ins? Well, who knows?
Hit to Lance, the legend begins.
Yeah.
That should be the next one. Just saying.
I heard that David Copperfield dropped in on Dallas club meeting not so long ago also. I think that Dal Sanders had helped to coordinate that, and that was kind of it was a surprise,
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. And Matt, what about you? Have you been doing a lot of Zoom meetings or attending Zoom lectures?
So my real job is nothing but Zoom meetings right now. And then my hobby, my love of magic, I've been hopping onto all the different things I can. I've got a lecture series with Mike Pashota coming up.
Oh,
he's so good.
I love
he is sweet.
John's got one a week from Saturday, and then Mike has a 4-week thing starting the following Sunday. And I've been trying to sit in when Michael Close is doing his
Yes.
book, which have been fantastic. And
right.
Back when all the COVID stuff started, Vanishing Ink had a fabulous multi-hour. I can't remember the name of the event. I can't remember what they
Share Magic Live, right?
Yes, that was it. Thank you. So participated in that, and then trying to take advantage of the time at home to read a little bit more and work on some things. But
yeah,
it's been, interesting times.
There have been a lot more people who have been doing a lot of lectures, and I just attended one last evening with David Regal, and there were like 500 people who were involved with that, and that was a great one. And he spoke for a little over 2.5 hours, and just went by pretty quickly. A lot of stuff that's in his new book, talking about books you should be reading. Interpreting Magic is just an excellent book, and he's got 50 different interviews with people in there also. So it's not just a book. I mean, 500 pages of tricks, but also just of interviews with friends. So that's a pretty cool book. But there was another lecture a while back. I know that Adam Wilbur and Justin Miller have been doing lectures for individual cities. Mayor Yetted's been doing the same thing. I just talked with Gregory Wilson, and I'm going to be working with him for putting together a series of lectures, online lectures coming up soon then as well. He had done something with Aaron Fisher, and I think he said there were like 3,000 people who had attended worldwide when Aaron had put this thing on. So it's amazing the reach that this has.
Yeah. We lost you for a second there, Scott, but you're back.
Oh, okay.
There you are.
Yes. Sorry. It's probably my stream because I'm the one hosting this. So maybe it could be that I've got a little bit slow stream or something. But anyhow, I would just, I don't know where you left off over there. What did you last hear me say?
You were just starting to talk about Greg's lecture with Aaron Fisher's group.
Yeah, I was just saying that Greg Fisher had about 3,000 people worldwide that was on his lecture. So it's just crazy, how these things work. But I'm wondering, and not, in addition to that, how many of you have actually done a paid show for anybody on Zoom?
Yeah.
Awesome, Jeff.
It's interesting. It's
so
very interesting.
What was your experience? How did you build it up? What did you do? Did you do some free shows so you felt comfortable, or what happened?
My thing was I had done some free spots. I had done some magic for like family and friends, but I had a feeling that when I go back to the cruise ships, it may be no physical interaction with volunteers. So I'm trying to transition my 245s for the ships over to no physical interaction, just in case. I mean, who knows? There might be a different scenario, but right now I figure that's what's going to be. So I figured this is the perfect chance to do it. I rehearsed a little bit. I did one show and it went well. I've realized 45 minutes is the sweet point. I feel like anything over 45 minutes of a magic show online is a little bit too much, I think that's the perfect spot for it. So, but it went really well, and yeah.
Is that their attention span, you think, for an online magic show is about 45 minutes?
Yeah, that's what it feels like. I mean, just from doing some magic for friends on it, it feels like that's the time. That's the sweet spot where it's not too much, it's not too little, it's just right, you know? I mean, I've not done a lot of it. This was just one that I still had on the books that they wanted to do as a virtual show. Because at first I was like, I have no idea how to do these. I'm not going to do any virtual shows. Like, I'll donate time, but I'm not charging for this because I have no idea what this is going to look like. But they were insistent, so I reduced the price of what, of course, the live show would be that they had already booked me for. But yeah, it went well, and they want to book me live next year. So yay!
That's right. So they liked it. It was a win-win.
Did you use Zoom or did you use a different platform?
I use Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah, I use Zoom.
That's an interesting question, because I've heard, Matt, that there are obviously other, StreamYard and whatever else. And that was one of the things that Greg had asked me about, saying, I'm not sure that I want to use Zoom because people can hack into it, or it may not be as stable of a platform. And so what
that happened to me once, just so you know. We were on a call. David and I were calling Aiden Sinclair and Becca Knight, and we were on the camera, and all of a sudden there's this girl talking about getting her hair done and how they left the dye in her hair, and we're like, what is happening right now? She's like, this dye, it's in my hair. I can't believe this. I'm like, Becca, that's not you, right? She's like, no. I'm like, Aiden, that's definitely not you. And yeah, we had to like sign out and get back together, but somebody totally hijacked our Zoom call. It was creepy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you ever had that happen, Matt? I mean, have you, in your experience, or?
No, I've been lucky. I've heard a couple of people at work that had that happen. I think Zoom has updated some of their software to help prevent that, and then
they just had a 5.0 update just a few days ago. Mm-hmm.
And then also, I think, like with what you did, having not just the meeting number, but a password. So I think that altogether, those things have helped quite a bit.
So what do you think about other kinds of streaming meetings other than just Zoom? What do you know about other types?
So I've seen Facebook seems to be working well. I'm not certain when I've participated on Facebook what the underlying technology is. So right now, in this case, we're on Facebook, but it's being streamed from Zoom. I've used and have interacted with others that have used the Google product. So and that's worked quite well. We've done that at work. I've done that with friends. Set up virtual happy hours, kind of like we're doing now. So the products worked very well with video and audio. I'm not certain. I think the capacity of Zoom is really what's been driving things, and the ability for most people to get a free account has probably helped a lot.
Well, that's true. I've used a free account for a long time, and I recently had upgraded so we could do this live. And the same thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're going to do this on YouTube, don't you have to have 1,000 subscribers before that YouTube will allow you to do a live stream?
I believe that's correct. Yes. Yeah. You have to have a little bit of a bigger starting fan base to take advantage of that infrastructure. Yeah.
Well, that was why in last week's video that I did, I was suggesting if people could like my YouTube page, then that will kind of help me so I can get more subscribers over there. That well, in fact, I might as well mention that right now. Let me go over here and show you what I can do for a contest. This is
shameless plug. Shameless plug.
Yeah.
Prizes.
Yeah. All righty, here we go.
Oh, and good prizes. I know what this is.
So, it's not Lance Burton's 2-card Monty.
Hey, that's a good prize.
Although that's a very good prize. That's right. But this is
Scott.
Well, I can autograph Richard's also. I mean, whose name do you want me to Richard? Well, I can put Lance on here too. But this is just a poster from his movie Dealt, and also that I have 2 decks of Dealt playing cards.
Oh, very nice.
Then as well. So and they are sealed. You can see inside there as well. So all you have to do in order to win one of these remaining 3 prizes is to, first of all, subscribe to the pod letter. Go to themagicwordpodcast.com. You can subscribe to the pod letter. Subscribe also to the YouTube channel. I believe it's Texas Magician or Scott Wells Magic. Just so you can check that out. And most importantly is if you will leave a 5-star positive comment of some sort on iTunes for me and Apple, or if you don't use Apple, whatever that your provider might be, if it's going to be Spotify or Google Play or whatever, just leave a positive comment over there. So those 3 things, and I've got 3 things left to go. And once you do that, just send me an email. Let me know, Scott@themagicwordpodcast.com, and tell me which prize you want, and it'll be yours. Post-paid by me domestically. There we go.
And I'm posting.
Canadian residents can't win? What you're saying?
So you were saying, Jessica, that you got some interesting and surprising news to talk about cruise ships.
Oh, so no, mine's about IBM.
Oh, the IBM. Okay.
So I don't know what I can say. I don't know if I can talk about it or not, but I'm going to kind of hit on it. Yeah, why not? So let me have another sip of this and then I'll speak. No.
Yeah, exactly. But the more you drink, the more you can talk.
Yeah.
And share.
Well, I talked with future President Stephen Bargatze today, and as you know, Alexander, who's done such an amazing job of handling everything through the COVID crisis and keeping the magic community in contact with one another, and then also giving people that have the memberships the bang for their buck by doing the IBM jams, which have been awesome lectures, super awesome. If you're a member, they are on the IBM website and you can go watch them under resources. Super, super awesome. But Stephen wants to continue that. So I'm going to be on a committee to hopefully bring magicians like myself and Bill Cook and Alexander to People's Rings to do short talks that can hopefully just forward the art of magic. So
I love it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Great.
So
I love it.
we're putting a committee together, and I'm really excited. So Ryan Pilling and Alexander and Jason Michaels and Bill Cook and Stephen Bargatze again is going to be president. So yeah, we just want to keep it going because it's so easy. I mean, we never really did this in Magic Rings before. Like, this is such a great way to bring in special guests. If a ring says, hey, I really would love to learn about cruise magic. You know, Bill or I could drop in for the week, or they go, hey, I want to learn about, 15 minutes of bar magic, and maybe we could get Kayla to come in and talk. But I think it's a resource that we should use, and it'll be really cool. So I'm excited about it. But yeah.
That's awesome.
So will that be for their meetings? That's not going to be on the IBM Facebook page. You're talking about so they can drop in on meetings and drop in. What they call paratroopers or something like that?
Well, I think that what this will be is we're talking about 15-minute spots that people will be able to do about a variety of different topics, just as a special guest spot at the ring. And then I think Alex has plans to keep the jams going online too. So that's really cool. He started something great, and I want to make sure he keeps doing it because he's done such an awesome job. I love Alex.
That's one of these things that has been forged by fire. The fact that we've been in this, the magicians are creative people, and also we want to remain relevant, and we're looking for audiences. And it's like, where can I go? How can I perform? What can I do? And Zoom was the first thing that everyone kind of went to.
And we're coming together. I feel like an issue with magic, and the reason that there's been so much divide between certain people is we don't really get to meet that often. You know, if we have a gig during a convention, we can't go to the convention. You know, we're in different states, we're in different countries. So the IBM is looking for ways to bring everyone worldwide together to forward the art of magic. And that's what it's all about. So I'm super excited about it.
I'm excited the fact that Alex has decided, and Steve Bargatze as well, to carry this on even after we get out of quarantine. That this is going to, because we figured out how to do it, and there are people willing to continue to do that, and they'll continue. I think there'll be a demand. I'm wondering though how many people will still be interested in doing and listening to this after and doing streaming or going back and downloading some of this, because right now there's so much content. I mean, podcasts in general, not just mine, but I read a lot about what's going on with podcast business. And I had read where that podcasts in general are down by 20% in their listenership per podcast. And the reason is you have more podcasts that have been coming out. People have more time. They've decided, hey, I'm going to start a podcast. I got time. I can do that. Once they get back into the real world and they realize that podcast is not, something that will make them money, they'll get rid of it. But, they're doing it right now. So there are more options. And I mean, 1 million different podcasts with, I don't know how many episodes coming out a week for different podcasts. But beyond that people who typically listen to podcasts are listening during drive time in their cars and they're not going to work. They haven't been. And number two is that they have been listening whenever that they're at the gym and working out for an hour or, going out and for a jog for an hour or whatever. So with that, there are two things that people are not doing anymore. So they're out of their normal habit of what they do. And then you couple that with other kinds of live streaming. In other words, and I'm not just talking about all the things that you had said there, JJ, as far as the jam, the IBM jam, and other kinds of lectures that Matt, you and I were talking about that people are doing, or the convention like the judge. Exactly. But I'm talking about Netflix, and Hulu and,
Disney
downloading. Yeah, there are just so much, to watch and to listen to. And so that's taken away from some of the people. Now, that'll all return, I believe, once the people kind of get back in the groove of things, but it's going to be slow. I think I see us right now almost like a turtle. Our heads are kind of popping out of the shell just a little bit and looking around. It's like, I want to go. And if I do, how far do I want to, travel? And a little at a time, I don't think we're going to hit it real hard, right away. I think it's going to be a slow transition.
But at the same time, I think the fact that a lot of the live jams have a way to interact is big, because they can actually ask questions like Harrison's show. How do you book that? Or who books that?
That is the most incredible thing. He gets, first of all, great guests, and then he brings in surprise guests. It's like you didn't expect, and that's so much fun. And he's just a very funny guy.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, what the?
Yeah. And, there are other things too. David Sandy has on Sunday nights the Collector's Workshop or Collector's Corner. And he had a thing just recently with Chip Romero that was doing a live broadcast from his collection in his house there in Lake Charles. And as he was talking, he was showing some of his costumes that Doug Henning had used. And he was talking about, this is one that Julie Newmar used. And then David Sandy said, hold on just a minute. We have someone on the phone. And Julie Newmar was on the phone, and she talked for about half hour. It was amazing. Wow. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And he had, signed photos of Julie Newmar, and Doug Henning that, there were still promo photos. And the next day, Chip called me and he said, he talked he's like a Muppet on speed, He was, we talked for about 2 hours, but he just, for the first half hour, just couldn't believe it. Julie Newmar, we were talking. She said, I can't believe that. That meant so much. And anyhow, that was just, but the point is that's a cool thing. It's been growing every Sunday night. I think they're going into their 7th week of that. If you don't belong to that, if you're not into history, I don't know why you're not, but you should be interested. And there are people, Jim Steinmeier, Mike Caveney, all these people are on this. What's that? Oh yeah, Adele Freer's on there every week. The mascot moth. What is she?
The moth.
Oh, Adele.
The elusive moth.
Yeah. Yes.
Somebody figured out how to work Adele's Zoom. Thank God. Yay! That's amazing.
So they have a regular feature now on Sunday nights called Ask Adele, and so you can ask her questions and stuff. So she talks for quite a while, about Blackstone Senior and working, in Blackstone Island and living there during the summer. And anyhow, it's a great thing. If people aren't listening to that yet,
right out of here.
I'll tell you what, I used to hear when I was in Terry Evanswood's show, we did a version of the Enchanted Flower Garden using Blackstone Jr.'s actual girl to flowers. And I was the girl that turned into said flowers and was wet from the water levitation and then ran to do my fire eating act afterwards. So it was very interesting to be covered in feathers amidst water and fire. But Adele came to watch the act, and we recorded her talking about the Enchanted Flower Garden. And because she was the girl that turned into the flowers, she would always go, I never got to see the end of the Enchanted Garden, but you will. And then the lights would go up.
That's
it was
great.
so cute to hear her voice
Oh, fun.
every day.
Yeah. That's great. Matt, do we have any questions or anybody who's listening over there? Did you check that?
We've got a lot of highs.
Who's out there? Who's saying hello? Read off a few
Let's see,
names
I
there.
see, Andy Peterson, Niels Unker, Jeff Horton, Carrie Schaffner, Mike Phillips.
Mike Phillips! He did the Enchanted Garden.
A whole bunch of different people. I'm looking for any questions though. I see a lot of highs.
That's awesome. Mike Phillips and I waltzed during the Enchanted Garden twice a day, every day, 6 days a week for years.
Wow, fantastic.
Was that with Terry Evanswood?
Yeah.
Yeah. You were with him for what, 3 years?
It was, okay, so it was over 8 years on and off, but it was literally thousands and thousands and thousands of shows.
And that was in Branson, not Branson, but in
Pigeon Forge.
in Pigeon Forge? Yes. Yeah. So tell me a couple stories about that.
Oh gosh. There's so many. I don't even know where to start.
Well, I remember when you and I talked before, I've told other people the story, that your life seems to be aligning with, I should say, the stars align with your life. It seems like that you just fall in the right place at the right time. And like with him, apparently that you had worked with your uncle, I guess, doing magic. And so you knew about being a box jumper. And then he was needing someone and you just happened to fit the right costume for that show, for that. And so tell us.
It was crazy. I was in Pigeon Forge for Thanksgiving, and Terry was going to do his first Christmas show at Wonderworks. He'd never done the Christmas show there before. And I got him to town, and he lost his assistant in the show, one of his elite girl assistants. And I was there, and he's like, do you know the tube illusion, the metamorphosis, the twister, the this, the that, the da-da-da-da-da-da-da? And I was like, And I fit the dress, and I'd never worn red lipstick or put on fake eyelashes. And I got backstage, and I did the show, and I stayed for thousands and thousands and thousands of shows. I literally moved there with my one suitcase, and I stayed. True story. It's like, it's crazy, but it was amazing.
And then you went from there to where? Is that what
Sweet Fanny Adams Theater, where I did a magic act, a comedy magic act in the show. We had the Great Dumb Beanie, and I played the assistant, but I was the one that made all the magic happen. And then I ended up working with Connie Boyd, headlining her show Illusions on ships for a year. And that was like a year straight of shows on a ship. There were like 9 dancers in the show, but I did all the illusions. And then I got back, and I decided, you know what? I want to finally open my own show in Gatlinburg. So I opened it at Sweet Fatty Adams Theater, and it was a blast. And now I'm on this roller coaster of cruise ships. I usually am at sea about 180 to 200 days a year doing the shows on the ships.
When did you start singing?
Obviously not now, but.
Yeah. When did you start singing?
Singing?
Yeah.
Oh God. Yeah. So that's been hard. If you've seen my Gypsy Thread routine, I sing Tightrope from The Greatest Showman. It's like my signature piece. And I use a quote by Carl Wallenda: being on the tightrope is living. Everything else is just waiting. And it feels so good to say that because I haven't gotten to say it in 3 months. But it's inspired by Eugene Berger and that quote by Carl Wallenda, and I sing Tightrope. And I had never really sang that much on stage because I didn't make it in the concert choir when I was in high school. And my parents overheard me singing when I was a kid and pretty much thought I sucked. My sister's a professional singer, so they're like, kid, don't sing, stick to magic. But I actually worked on that tightrope routine years ago, and I told Terry and Mike about it backstage, and I said, Terry, I don't have a song, but can I sing the song to you so you get an idea of what it is? He goes, yeah. And I sang the song, and Terry was in tears, and he's like, you have to sing it. He's like, you can't play a track, you have to sing the song. And I'm like, I don't sing this. Okay, when I get nervous on stage, I get a red rash across my chest.
Really?
Like, I can't help it. I've had it since I was in school, and I raise my hand, still get it, which is why all my costumes have a zipper up to the neck. And if I see that rash coming, I just zip my jumpsuit up. But yeah, I started singing, doing the tightrope routine. And so I've gotten more comfortable, but man, it's hard when you're on a cruise ship and there's amazing production singers. And like, I was the night after Six, the Broadway musical, with these 6 powerhouse female singers and dancers, this amazing Broadway show. And they're like, and now a girl with a newspaper and a piece of thread. Ta-da! I'm like, let me entertain you. But yeah, it started with tightrope.
Wow, that's great. And so right now, as far as cruise ships, as you said, everything is kind of, well, nothing's happening. Are any ships actually going out? Are they all docked? Have they got any plans to reopen and go back out to sea? And I'm not talking just about for magicians, but cruise ships in general. What have you heard?
I know they're booking dates in August right now.
Oh, really? Okay.
I don't have word on any. I know that all of my contracts were canceled until August 1st, but I do have a pending contract in September, October, which I'm hoping still happens. Unfortunately, it's to, and I don't say unfortunately because I don't like Canada, but just because it's to Canada and they won't let us in right now.
Hey,
But
Gwyn's giving you the snake eye there.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that they just sort of reroute the ship to maybe the Bahamas or something so that we can still do the cruises, because that would be awesome. But I would love to visit you, Gwyn.
I won't open my borders.
I know.
Is that true that your borders are not open, so you can't really even, Gwyn, go back and forth from Canada to the U.S. or what?
So from what I've understood is all the borders are closed between Canada and the U.S. There is, as I just found out from a friend, a loophole in BC, which I think is called Peace Arch Park, and it's between the two borders, and people from both countries can go into that park, and you haven't like crossed a border. And I only know that because a friend went to see her friend who lives in the States. And so they met in the park and like had lunch and then both went back to their respective countries.
Right.
So I thought that was cool. But otherwise, borders are closed. Provincial borders in Canada are not, but they are not recommending that you travel between provinces. So for example, I'm in Alberta. I think we had 23 cases yesterday. It was a really low number for the whole province, which is great. Yay!
Yeah.
But like Toronto and Quebec, I think still had like up in the 400s. I might be wrong because I don't remember all the numbers because there's a lot that go through in a day. But Calgary's cases have come down quite a bit, especially if there's only like 23 for the whole province. Calgary had the most out of Alberta. My younger brother's in the Toronto area and we'd like to go see him, but we just don't think that we can right now, you know, because once you go, then you're supposed to quarantine wherever you go for 14 days, they say.
Wow.
Even if it's between provinces.
So what about restaurants? I mean, here in the U.S. that we're able, I mean, I went out, Trixie Bond and I went out for dinner down in Galveston last evening, and there were quite a few people. I mean, it wasn't a long line. I mean, we went right in, but we weren't really socially distant as far as the tables. They were so close together. And so that was the first time I've been out to dinner since March. And it was great, you know, fresh seafood. I just really am glad I did. And Trixie's just a wonderful host, you know, and my best friend. Anyhow, my question is, what about Canada? Are you guys actually getting out and going to restaurants, or business slowly opening now? Or?
They just started reopening for Calgary. They'd reopened other parts of the province towards the end of May, and then Calgary they delayed. They were going to reopen and then they delayed. So there was a movement to like order takeout from all these restaurants because they'd all planned on reopening, and then the day that they were supposed to reopen, or like the night before, it was like, no, we're not reopening yet. So now things are reopening slowly. A lot of restaurants are taking their time. So right now patios are open. Some of the larger pubs and restaurants are planning to open tomorrow. I went to like a small town and went to their patio, and they have you, one table can have people, the next table cannot. One table can have people, and there's X's on the tables. So like you cannot sit there where the X is. And all the servers were in masks and that plexiglass. I don't know if you guys have those. Yeah. And a lot of the stores have like the plexiglass around the cashiers. So you just kind of like hand them things. So it's a thing. You're supposed to wear masks. They do turn you away at some places in Calgary if you don't have a mask on. And I've heard that they would turn you away if you're traveling by air. If you don't have a mask, you're either going to be provided with one or you're not able to go on.
Are you talking about all flights or just Air Canada?
You know, I don't know what Air Canada's procedures are, or but from what I've understood, it's all flights. All flights, everyone has to wear a mask. And shameless plug.
Oh,
so cute.
with the Queen on there. Hold it up to the camera. So
hold it up again.
They're adorable.
With the Queen of Hearts.
It's so awesome.
That's great. Did you make that?
I've got a girl here in town that's made them for me so I can sell them. So they're up in my Etsy shop.
So, here's an opportunity. Go ahead and pitch your product.
They're up in my Etsy shop with my cufflinks. So if you go to Etsy or go to my page, you'll find it. Oh, she's got some.
I have cufflinks right here.
Oh, look at those.
Yes.
I made these. They're amazing. I love them. I literally have them on the coffee table because they make me happy.
So cute.
Like I didn't plant them there. They're just always there.
It's funny because I know that I didn't tell everybody who was going to be on tonight. So, I mean, that is a surprise. That's kind of cool.
I love them.
They're so cute.
So, Gwen, where can people buy the cufflinks or the face mask?
So they're on my Etsy page. I don't know the link offhand because Etsy gives you a bunch of letters with it. But if you go to my Facebook page or my Instagram, which is just The Magic Assistant, if people find me there, my links will be up, or on Twitter.
Okay.
And Scott, I found cards with a martini glass, so I'll have to make you a set now.
Okay. Yeah, I know that Etsy, I've ordered things from Etsy in the past, and Etsy is ETSY.com. So if people are looking. Yeah. And those are people who are making things, whether they're knitting. Several years ago, what I ordered were mirror cards. Have you ever heard of mirror cards? They were, I think, used perhaps by Peterson and some others. I mean, it goes way back. But basically, they are makeup mirrors or compact vanity mirrors, that ladies would have in their purse. They're just a little round thing. And so it's a mirror. And on the other side, it's like a button, basically. That's stamped on there, and so you can have a card, you can have your contact information. In my case, I had my face on one side, and then around the edge, as you turn it, it would have my website and the email and phone number and everything, information along the edge of this mirror card, which I gave out to people. So it was available on Etsy. It's just I sent them the information and the picture, and they made these mirror cards for me.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't make much cool stuff, but I'm knitting Gwyn a scarf.
You're too sweet.
So, Gwyn, I know you're in Calgary, but I know also, of course, you work then with Lance Burton. So tell us what's happening in Las Vegas, if you know anything at all about it. I understand they just recently reopened.
I understand that they opened casinos at 12:01 this morning. And that's all I know. That's all I've seen online. I don't know anything else that's happening in Vegas right now. I know that things appear to be open from what I've seen, like restaurants and stuff like that. But I don't think that shows are going yet. But I don't know if you guys have restrictions. Like we have restrictions where you can't have a gathering of more than, I think Calgary now is 50 people, but it used to be like 10.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that, how that's going to work, for an example, with movie theaters or even theaters for magicians when you're performing. If there will be, perhaps a table and then, as you said, maybe X'd off in the next table, or maybe kind of spaced out. So instead of a room that's going to seat, let's say, typically, say 600 people, they're going to kind of put the tables and divide them in half and only have 300 tables or something. I'm wondering how this is going to work.
Caesars Entertainment did release in Las Vegas that they weren't allowing any audience members to be brought on stage. I don't know if that's been changed, but I think that was 2 weeks ago they put out that statement. So that's why I had started changing shows already to have to have audience interaction, but without them coming on stage.
So let me ask you, that's a good question then, JJ. And also then, Matt, let me ask you, as far as, do you think that mentalism would be the kinds of things to do where that you can have more things that the audience can do?
I think that would be a perfect way to take advantage of the situation, is to work some things like that into your act. I would guess many of my parents and their friends who also love magic but are pretty nervous about getting out right now. I think you're going to have a section of your audience that is going to wouldn't want to come up on stage and is going to be nervous about any sort of interaction, maybe even a tossed out deck. And so I think engaging them verbally in mentalism routines is probably going to be necessary for a lot of people that maybe wouldn't normally do that.
I think it's difficult for people to understand you through a mask also. When I was out last evening, for example, I was talking, I went to the Sprint store. I got a new phone. And when I did that, anyhow, I was talking with someone, they had behind a mask, and I had to ask them 3 times, so can you repeat that? I'm sorry. And it's almost they had to pull down the mask in order to say what they were trying to say. So it's kind of hard to hear, to understand.
Yeah. I think subconsciously everyone lip reads a little bit without realizing it.
That's a very good point.
You fill in the bits that you didn't quite hear by seeing what the mouth formations and teeth formations are, and you lose that visual information. So I do think it's more challenging.
Did we lose Gwyn?
Yeah, I think she was saying that there were some storms there in Calgary, so I think she may be coming back. Hopefully that, she's going to be in and out, so hopefully she'll be back in here momentarily.
And I will add to what you said, I know something that I'm going to be more conscious about is I'm going to bring my own microphone. A lot of times I'll use someone else's mic, but especially handhelds where there's been like
oops, you
Bill
froze
Cook
up.
had a great about strengths to get rid of stuff. It was on his IBM Jam lecture. Look it up now. But it was a great tip, and I know I'm going to bring my handheld.
You had frozen up there. Say that again. What was the tip?
Oh,
Bill Cook said what?
He said it's an old secret about mixing vodka, just saying, and water together, and you spray it, and it gets rid of any scent. You can use it on costumes. You can use it on the microphone. Right. But I know I'm going to be bringing my own mic with me. Even on the ships, I'll have a handheld and my headset because I switch back and forth. But and another thing with the interaction, I've talked to a lot of comedian friends because when I'm on the ships, obviously there's no other magicians, so I'm working with comedians, and you have to realize they're doing 45-minute shows, hour and 15-minute shows with no audience member on stage. So I'm like, okay, they're so engaging, and what if we just get audience interaction in a different way? So almost like, remember Freddie Mercury would do the Deo, and then point to the audience, Deo.
Call and response, right?
Yeah, and moments like that do keep the audience with you, and to them, it's interaction. So if we can add moments like that and maybe spend a little more time on our comedy, maybe work with a comedian, or like Jerry Seinfeld says, to write 3 funny things a day. She's back! Yay! But Jerry Seinfeld says write 3 a day. And if you write 3 funny things a day, that's great. And I feel like a lot of comedians work harder than magicians. Not all magicians, but then a lot of magicians by writing something every day. So I think that's a good thing to work on.
Well, in fact, going back to the podcast, one of the people I've got coming up, in fact, is coming Thursday, is going to be Ryan Kane, who just wrote a book called Out of Stock. And he is a street performer in San Francisco, and also has a performance he gives to corporate audiences, but he works out his material on the street and then goes into the boardrooms to do the corporate shows. Anyhow, he's got a book in which and the podcast we're talking about is basically.
We got him.
Okay.
You froze there for a second, Scott.
I did. Okay, I'm sorry. So Ryan Kane's got a book called Out of Stock, and basically the podcast is coming Thursday that I'm going to release is him talking about the fact that how to identify in your show what it is that you're saying that is an automatic line that you always say. Whenever you hear an audience member say something in your mind, you say something, you know. And so how to get rid of those kinds of things, identify and then eliminate and then create something new. And so
cool.
I think that that's, you know, something that we can all learn from. You know, in the podcast, I don't like to have people who I don't feature people who have a new book or DVD with tricks or whatever it is, because those are coming out all the time. But if it's something I think that will move our art forward like this, I think it's important. And I think that he has something to say and he has a voice. And so I'm encouraging that. And so that's going to be coming up here soon. But I'm thinking about, you know, doing close-up, for an example, like, you know, part of my bread and butter really is strolling magic during cocktail hours and corporate events and working in restaurants. That obviously you're not going to be able even to hand someone a pen to sign a card, let alone take a card. You know, they're going to be, or sponge balls or sponge bunnies or those kinds of things, or put a coin in your hand, you know, hopping halves or whatever. Those are going to be gone for a period of time. And so you've really got to think about almost internalizing things, but you're still one-on-one. How can you make this personal, and what can you do in order to make that personal contact? And I think that's going to challenge us as magicians to think outside of what our normal act would be, and how can we rewrite that? So that's going to force us to, that's why I go back to the out of stock, getting rid of stock lines and rewriting what we're trying to say, you know, so, and what we're doing that will say, instead of, you know, you writing it, say, you know, name something like a heart or a star or sunshine or something, and I'll draw that for you, whatever you say, for an example.
Like the
or your
virtual
name
shows.
Right. So you could do that, you know, for them, and then kind of go through with that, which is what it's almost as if it goes back what you were saying then, JJ, of having a virtual show that you're performing online as we're talking right now, that people can interact with, you know, there at home. So it's going to be difficult and have to rewrite, I think, what we are doing in our, did I freeze up again there for you? I think I froze up. I'm going to pause here for a minute. Hello.
Have completely different material. There he is.
There we
I'm
go.
back. That's right. And are we still live or not? Over
Yeah,
there,
we are.
Take a look.
Yeah, we're still
Well,
live. I saw it on the Facebook.
okay, because there's a little bit of a lag. Make sure that we're still there, Matt. So, okay,
Yep.
great. I don't know where I cut off, but I was just saying we're going to have to rethink what we're doing and what we're saying, I believe, right now, particularly for close-up.
Mm-hmm.
Not just stage. But you're right, JJ, whenever you bring people on stage, we're going to have to rethink about how you interact with people and having them, you know, touching them or moving them from one side to the other or whatever.
Which I'm bad about. You know that, because I pulled you up as my volunteer at IBM. So, like,
Yes.
I have a totally new version of Nations of the World with no physical audience interaction, because I will not put that routine down, because I love it, and it's an
But
excuse
is the song
to sing
still
the
in it?
Maniacs. United States, Mexico, Canada. Oh God, I love it. But that's where the virtual magic, I feel like, can actually help. Even if you get on Zoom and you do part of your close-up repertoire for your family, because they can't physically interact with you, you're forced to move through that and see, what would I do if I couldn't touch someone? What would I do if I can't hand them a pen? So that's a really, really good workshop for it.
Yeah, that gets to be very difficult, you know, kind of a thing. Now, as far as what, Matt, I wanted to get back to you just on the podcast for just a second, because you've been a long-time listener. I wanted to ask you about what would be one of, I'm really getting off the topic of what we've just been talking about. What is one of your favorite podcasts? What, who have you enjoyed or who I've talked to in the past?
Oh, wow.
I guess the other ladies can answer that too.
Yeah, that's a tough question. You know, honestly, this is going to sound like a total cop-out, but I can't really think of a favorite, because the way you've got such a diverse group of magicians that you bring in, there's always something that I find really entertaining in every podcast. So I'm always smiling or learning something, or it's forcing me to go look something up. So I like the format that you've created and has evolved with just having an open discussion, and the topics are always varied and interesting. It's not the same thing every week. Yeah. I'm gonna dodge
5 stars.
small so much.
5 in the review.
Here's a deck of cards for each of you. Well, that's one of the things I intend to do is to have some diversity. So this way that, like one week when I'm talking with Jessica Jane about cruise ships, and then the next week when I'm talking with, I've got David Kay coming up. You're talking about, children's entertainment, Silly Billy. Or I'm talking with Paul Daniels, or I talk with Tom
Or
Mulliker.
live convention coverage. Those are my favorite. I love
Yeah.
the convention podcast.
Yes.
When I can't be there, it's like being there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That warms my heart. That's really what I try to do, is make people feel as if who aren't there, that they are there in real time.
And you know what? Even if I am there, like I've been going live for the last few years, I still listen to the podcasts because I get everything in, right?
Yeah.
So, what did I miss? I know I missed something, but what did I miss? And so, I agree. I would say the convention podcasts are really, really nice.
That's what kind
especially
of
if you
got.
can't go there, but even if you can.
That's what got my podcast actually kicked off, thanks to Greg Dodd Vickers. That Dodd Vickers has the Magic Newswire, and for he said that for many years, and he has, I think, the ultimate archive that people should go back and listen to, where he has talked with everybody. The thing is that Dodd really isn't a magician, but he is a researcher. He likes to go back and he will research, and so when he talks with Johnny Thompson, he has the right questions to ask. He knows everything about him. Dodd doesn't do tricks. He's never been to a club meeting, doesn't go to conventions, but he is just an excellent interviewer. And it's not one of these 20 questions, like how'd you get started in magic? What's your favorite trick? Who was your mentor? Kind of a thing. But those questions ultimately get answered in different questions, but it doesn't sound like he's actually got these 20 questions. He's going da-da-da-da-da. And so I really recommend it's a very great archive of what he has there. But I was working with him along with some other guys on Sunday nights, and we used to do kind of like what we're doing right now, just kind of chatting. And then he would bring in a surprise. There'd be like 4 of us. And there was one fellow who was an illusionist, another guy who was a younger fellow. There was me, who was an older guy who had some, knew about history, et cetera. And then him. And then he would bring in someone like Matt King or like Johnny Thompson or someone as a surprise guest on a Sunday night. It's like we're sitting here having a drink, and so we'd all just kind of chat with each other. Well, we did that for about a year, and on Sunday nights, and then he got busy with his other full-time job and really didn't get a chance to do that. So I was sending him these convention updates of what was going on at a convention, and he posted 2 or 3 or 4 of them, and I kept going to a lot more. I go to probably 6 conventions or more a year, except this year. And so then he was posting those, and he said, I think it'd be best now for you to have your own podcast, because I don't want my podcast to be about conventions, because I'm doing more and more of these that you're sending me. So, it kind of kicked me out of the nest. And so it's like, okay, I can fly on my own. I kind of understand how this is done. My background, I have a minor in radio and television for my undergraduate degree. And so I knew how to do this. So that's kind of how that the podcast took wings and started back in 2011. Here we are 9 years later. And I've got, I'm coming up on 600 episodes. That was kind of cool. And, Gwyn, going back to Lance for a minute, one of my favorites was with him. I was asking you earlier about one of your favorites, Matt, but this was one of my favorites because I actually, when I was chatting with Lance, we were at an IBM convention. He came up to the room and we recorded it live on Facebook. And as we were doing it, that was the first time he'd ever done a live Facebook kind of a thing. And he was looking, he kept looking at the thing, and the people had signed on, and they were talking, they were asking questions, unlike I guess they're doing tonight. But anyhow, they kept asking questions, and he saw us like, hey, there's Aunt Helen. Hey, Aunt Helen, how you doing? He was interacting with the people also who were asking questions. This is incredible. He was having the best time. And so when you listen to the podcast, as opposed to watching that, that you get this sense of, and it's on the YouTube channel also, of that video with him, but it's just his childlike interest and excitement of what he was doing for the first time. It's like, oh, this is so much fun, you know? So, and plus, you know, talking about how he developed his bird act and the sign that he had, that his buddy from Louisville, that they had actually stolen when they were out late at night, put in his trunk, and that was the sign he actually used, you know, for the road sign, street sign. Just some interesting backstory stuff that he was telling, you know, in that podcast too. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah,
he had a lot of fun with that one. He told me about it. He was like, "That was fun."
That is cool. That's cool.
Say Scott.
Yes.
George Yance wanted JJ to talk a little bit more about the 2 cases for 2 45-minute shows.
Oh, okay. Okay, so when I do the cruise ships, I have to do at least 2 different 45-minute shows without repeat material. When I'm on Norwegian, it's 1 in the theater and 1 in the comedy club. And so all my stuff has to fit into 50-pound suitcases, which is a fun task. So I do 2 shows out of those cases. If anyone watched my IBM Jam lecture, which you would be very amused by when I bring this up, I have 80 minutes of material that fits in my backpack that I bring on the plane. And it doesn't even, Gwyn, you'll love this. It doesn't have to go overhead. It can go under the seat in front of me.
Do you love that? That means you can plan the little props too.
I take no overhead space up. But yeah, I've got 80 minutes in there just so if my tables and stuff don't make it in my other bags, I have backup material with my camera, everything ready to go. I do on average 2 8-minute close-up segments in each of my cruise shows with the camera. It's still magic that can be done parlor style. It's not necessarily close-up magic. The camera just enhances it. It's like the first 30 rows, maybe 50 rows can see what I'm doing, but it's just meant to amplify for the people at the far back. But yeah, I do those shows. And then right now they're also asking for possibly a third 45-minute or a 1-hour lecture. So that's the stuff on cruises. So I'm trying to figure out how to add a third 45 or a lecture, which I'm working on.
They want that lecture to be
Secrets of Harry Houdini.
I was going to ask, was the lecture something that's non-magic, or is it going to be something related to history of magic?
Well, their thing was they wanted me to do like a teach a trick lecture, but instead of that, because I travel with the Houdini memorabilia that's in my show, like the sheet music from him, the book that belonged to him, the postcards from him and Bess, I am doing a lecture on the life and secrets of Harry Houdini, where the public attends because they think I'm giving away secrets. It's not anything crazy. Like I'm going to talk about the lock picks, like how he would put his hand on someone's shoulder and have like put the lock picks there when he did the jail cell escapes. But nothing like super crazy, like the old school school magic secrets where they won't remember what hit them. But yeah, I wanted to go more history based. I think that I want more than anything to share magic history. I'd rather do that than do the teach a trick lectures.
Mm-hmm. That's a good idea.
Just got this one.
Oh, girl, yes.
We just talked about Houdini, and this one I just got, and he goes through Canada.
I don't have that. Wait, what is that?
I'll send you a link.
Okay, please.
I'll send you the picture.
What's the title of the book?
It's called The Metamorphosis, The Apprenticeship of Harry Houdini.
Oh.
Written by who?
Written by Bruce McNabb.
Okay.
That's awesome. I know.
Yeah,
I'm
I
in
just
this
got
right now. It's Illusion Show. It's David Bamber's autobiography. Lance recommended it.
It looks so good.
Yeah,
I'll have to read that one.
Like, I get sometimes like when I'm on the ships for like 2 months at a time, I get kind of depressed because you're alone and like I'm there with cast changes, so you make friends and your friends leave, and then like you're alone in your like 10 foot by 10 foot room, and like I'm gonna see the world by myself, and and like I was getting really down, and I think David had messaged some of my friends and was like, Jesse's feeling down. And so Lance recommended this book because apparently David Bamberg got down too, and it was how he handled it. So good book if you haven't read it.
I'll have to find it.
Yeah.
I believe I've got that book also. That is a good book.
You can get it from Quicker Than the Eye right now for $50, which is a good deal because they're like $150 on Amazon. So $50, Quicker Than the Eye. Game for jury.
Very cool. Well, listen, we've kind of run through here for about an hour, and I wanted to kind of keep this to about an hour, and time went fairly quick, ladies and gentlemen, so I appreciate your time on being here, and also the people over who are online watching this right now. And thank you very much. I appreciate that, Matt, you checking from time to time over there to see. Do we have any other questions by chance, or was that the only thing right there that you saw? And so
he's scrolling. He's scrolling.
He's scrolling. They see me scrolling.
Andy Peterson wants you to tell us about your monkey bar costume at Magic Live last year.
Oh, my monkey bar. Yeah, I had a fun idea that everybody knows what a monkey bar is, a magic trick. And so I thought it'd be kind of fun to actually have one of those things that a cigarette girl used to wear back in the 20s or whatever, around her neck that would hold the cigarettes and whatever. And so I didn't have one, and I was in Vegas when I had this idea, and I was staying over at Murray Sawchuck's house. And so Murray is like one of my boys. I love the guy. And so
Canadian.
Yeah.
Aww.
So so we ordered that. I got it like the next day, and but I had a monkey also that was seated or sitting on the edge of this thing, and then I had a bottle of vodka and a martini glass, so this way that you can in a shaker. So it was like a monkey bar, so you could have a drink. And when I'm an investor in the in a company called Illusion Vodka. So I had a bottle of Illusion Vodka that we got over there. Who we got that's actually crashed our party over here?
Hey.
The Zoom crasher.
Hey.
Hey there, Lance. How are you doing,
Hi.
man?
What are you doing?
Hey, cheers to you, my friend. Hey, have a martini. Enjoy yourself.
Well, I had a Gatorade around here somewhere.
Well, you're way too healthy for me, man. And so I've still got a few cheese and crackers on my charcuterie here if you want to.
Oh, yeah, pass those over. Well, I've been listening to you guys talk, and you mentioned me a couple times, so I thought I'd pop in and see how you're doing.
Aww.
It's good to see everybody.
So we were just talking about Las Vegas earlier, and Gwyn said that as far as she had heard, of course, she's in Calgary, but what was happening, she understood that the casinos were opening, but didn't know anything about the shows. So can you give us any update of what's happening with the shows or anything?
None of the shows are open so far. They did open a few of the casinos last night, like at midnight. So not all of them, but I think a few of them have opened. So I think they're taking it real slow. They're doing like a soft opening.
And so with that soft opening, like even the casinos, I mean, like if you're playing blackjack, is like every other chair or something, or do you know?
Yeah, they've. I think some of the casinos have installed plexiglass barriers. Between the chairs, like at the blackjack tables, and maybe they're going to have three players per table instead of 5 or 6.
So kind of like the grocery stores or whatever. So you got that glass in front of them, huh? Yeah. Interesting. Well, so have they, with this soft opening, actually said when they're going to start reopening for having, shows to come back? I mean, I know Hans Klock, for an example, big show. I was supposed to be out there last week for the collectors thing that David Sandy and Bill Smith and all that. And I was going to go see Hans Klock's show on Monday. And of course, it was canceled, but it seems like that they were saying we're going to try to reopen in August, I think, with that. So I just am curious.
I think that's pretty much what people are thinking of now. Maybe the shows will start reopening sometime this summer.
Uh-huh.
So but they haven't made any announcements. I think everybody's just kind of slowly, taking their time.
Well, people are starting to come. Well, of course, just happened. But I wonder how quickly the people are actually going to be coming back. Tourists coming back to Vegas, because I assume that the people coming into the casinos are probably more locals or people that are not having to travel.
Yeah, I guess there was one of the downtown casinos. The owner is a very smart guy, and he gave away, I think, 1,000 one-way flights to Las Vegas to people all over the country.
Wow.
That is
Not
smart.
Canadians.
So yeah, maybe not.
You're banned. You can't cross the border. Remember?
I know.
Aw,
But
I'll come meet you at the park.
At the park.
bring a picnic basket.
Yeah, and your scarf.
So I think so they had like a little contest, and people from all over the country said, "Oh yeah, I want a free flight to Vegas." So it was a one-way flight. So I guess they had to buy their own ticket home, and so I guess that's how he solved the problem of getting people into his casino.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah, kind of one way. You get out there and they're very smart. Very smart. Well, hey, I'd asked Gwyn a little bit earlier about if you're going to be having another watch party. I enjoyed the last couple that you had with the Billy Pop.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, so we had one a month, I guess, the last couple of months, and I guess if people are still locked in, so we've got I've got the Fielding West Comedy Magic 1 hour special. I got the Young Magician special, and I've got another.
Oh, little Joel Ward.
Yeah, Joel's on it. Maybe that's what we should do. We should go with the Young Magician special.
Oh yeah, no. When Joel Ward goes, I got into magic, and then I got a date. It was my favorite part.
Can we do the Young Magician special, but get like Joel Ward and Josh J and Andy Gladwin
And Chrissy
Spencer Horseman, get them
Toguchi.
all as guests?
Yeah.
Oh
That'd be
man,
great.
It'd be so fun.
That'd be fun, and that's where Josh and Andy met on that show.
No kidding.
no.
Yeah, that's where they first met was on the filming taping of that TV special.
Yeah, Matt had mentioned earlier about that being one of the early conventions during this whole thing, that they had like a all-day convention on a Saturday, which was, what would you say? Share the Magic, I think it was. And that was just a great convention with so many people that were on there teaching some different ideas from close up and kind of like TED Talks. And plus they had some specials and things. And it was as close to attending a real convention as I've been to. That was really a great one. And I haven't seen that really replicated since then. I understand that Cadabra, I believe that Mark Daniels has got something coming up. They're going to be having their children's or kids show convention. That's going to be an online thing coming up, I think, sometime soon. So yeah, anyhow, I think
there's still space.
Oop, I think we locked up again here.
Yeah.
Did we lock up? Hello.
Anybody at all could drop in at any moment. You never know what's gonna happen.
Could be a surprise, yeah.
Okay, we're back again. Sorry, I lost out here.
We covered.
I gotta run because I got dinner to go.
Okay, I was just before Lance came on. I was just saying thank you guys very much. I appreciate you being on. And okay, how about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, good now.
It's like the Verizon commercial.
Yeah, really. Anyhow, I was wanting to say thank you guys very much for joining me over here this evening for Thursday Night Magic and Martinis. It's been lovely. Thanks a lot. I've enjoyed spending some time with you and also with the viewers there on Facebook who have joined in for us then too. And it's always a pleasure. Jessica Jane Peterson, thank you very much.
I love you guys. You're in my living room.
Thank you, Matthew Alexander. Matt, it's been great. Thank you again for being a supporter.
My pleasure. Thanks for letting me crash your party.
It's great. It's always great to have a a good supporter and a listener then. And also, Gwyn, thank you very much. And then for all you've done. Also, I know, kind of behind the scenes that you're the secret lady behind Lance. Okay, Noelle.
I just thank you for letting me cross a border.
Yeah, that's right. You're the border jumper.
Scott,
Yes, Lance.
got one note. You always introduce her as Gwyn Auger.
Hmm.
But her last name is pronounced Auger.
Auger. Yeah. Yes, you're right. Thank you.
It is, but I'm Canadian, so we're too polite to correct you.
Auger. Auger. I will remember. I'll remember that. I'll remember
Wait,
that.
Auger, your scarf is on the way.
Oh, there you go.
And Lance, thank you very much for crashing the party. I appreciate you being here, man.
Good to see you, Scott. Keep up the good work.
Okay. Thanks a lot, everyone. And so for the
Yeah.
Magic Word Podcast, this is Scotty and friends out. Awesome. Hey, that was great.